From here on in, we work with 4 other letters, and they are quite difficult. So that's why they're at the end of the letter groups. The other reason they're at the end of the letter groups is because some of the parts of these letters are slightly different to the base strokes that we saw. So it requires you looking at the base strokes in a slightly different aspect. So we have the K and the S and the Z and the X. K and the S and the Z and the X. So as you can see, there are strokes in here that you haven't encountered before directly, but we can see parts of these strokes from the previous letters. So let's look at that in a little bit more detail. Up and in. Take the next stroke from here. So notice I've gone up and down and out and back. I didn't just do that, because by making a little turn and down and a little turn, it creates a little bit of openness here and here, as opposed to producing a really solid line, because a diagonal line with a broad edge nib will always produce the thickest stroke at this point, and you want the stroke to be a little bit lighter. So the S, remember, go back and under and down and back and stop and back. So that gives us a shape that looks something like this, where the balance is over this stem. This stem is not a straight line. It moves ever so gently. So think of it going one and around and back and around. Just be really careful and slow and gentle with it, and it will work. The Z we have up and back. So notice it's the same shape on either side, and slide along the edge of that nib. Some people put a line across the Z because of this thin line. The thin line is so thin that it sometimes just collapses under the weight of the other 2 lines. So this horizontal bar sometimes helps it to stabilize itself. The X is not this. It's the same stroke, little up, little turn, down and out and back, and one and through the middle and back. So we have that shape, which is a new shape for the letters. It's different to the ones that we encountered at the beginning. You can also do this and stop and that, so we end up with that. This stroke, it's not a straight line. Again, it sort of mimics the S, where the S does a fairly large curve. This does a slightly diminished curve. And so this can either be a curling line or 2 shorter lines. Notice this comes out of here and this comes out of here. So understanding what's happening with these more complex shapes is really important. Remember, take your time with them, don't rush them.